Welcome to episode 172 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for WealthBuilders, and I'm joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Good to be with you again today.
Yes, and we're covering something slightly different today. So something close to my heart, a bit of personal development. And we've got Dan Hill, the property entrepreneur, back with us again for his second appearance on Wealth Talk. So we're going to be talking about the concept of karma credits, which is the title of his new book.
Very interesting. And I love the fact that the whole idea of just doing good things and good things come back round, almost like the difference between resonance and dissonance. Have I explained that to you before, Chris?
Yes, yeah.
So did we ever cover that on the podcast? So resonance is kind of like where two waves come together and there's more value, there's more power. And dissonance when two things come together and there's negativity. Now, in a world which is kind of troubled now, we're seeing people, there's disgruntlement, isn't there, all across the employed world, certainly, from a point of view of strikes and actions and so on. One could argue in troubled times, people could be negative. Although in the pandemic, there was lots of evidence of people kind of supporting each other, a bit like the spirit of the Blitz, I suppose. And why I was impressed with Dan's new book was just it made me think, and often when you're taking a lead in a community, you're looking for ideas which are really all about finance, I suppose. So, I tend to focus on that. But this is an idea that just hit me, and it was almost like a little punch in the face again to remind me that values-driven is just as important as value-driven. Sharing and not just exploring, but living real values to help other people in the spirit of knowing that it's just good to do that as opposed to try and capturing some kind of financial value from that. And that's why I thought it would be a really good idea to feature that, because it's a value both you and I uphold very dearly. But both of us had a little bit of a realization, didn't we, when we put into practice? Maybe we can share a couple of those at the end.
Yeah, let's do that. I think there's no better man to explain the concept than Dan himself. So let's head over to our conversation today with Daniel Hill. Dan, welcome back to Wealth Talk today. How are you?
All good. Nice to see you again, Christian.
Absolutely. Well, we first invited you to Wealth Talk earlier this year. It was episode 155, actually, and we're talking about retire young, retire wealthy. And that was a very, very popular episode. And anyone listening now who hasn't checked it out, I'm going to link to it in the show notes, and definitely do check it out. But you've been a busy man, Dan, as always, but writing a new book.
Yeah, so Karma Credits, it's now out. We got to number 1 Amazon bestseller in all 3 categories, which was just amazing. And the initial reception has been really positive.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you did a podcast episode recently talking about the concept of karma credits. And that's what we're going to dive into today, right? And, the title of your book, the subtitle, The Universal Law of Wealth, Health and Happiness. And I think that's a good message today. It's wealth is so much more than just the money, isn't it?
Yeah, so people have been badgering me for about nearly 10 years now, 9 years, to try and get me to write a book. And I think they were expecting one on economics, investment, wealth. And what I actually wrote was what I think is my secret to success, which is a lot more than the sort of fundamentals of ones and zeros. And it's more about the underlying principles to get you there. Life and business can be significantly easier if you do a certain few key things. And what I did was I blueprinted what I've spent the last 20 years building. It was only 12,000 words. You can read it in like 2 hours, but it will genuinely change your life. If you read it and put it into place, it will change the world around you. It will change your life, and it will just make business so much easier and enjoyable.
Yeah. And how is this different to, let's say, a typical kind of self-help, personal development book?
It's probably like halfway between like practical, academic sort of like law of reciprocity, playing the long game, which are quite sort of strategic, personal development, binary things. It's halfway between that and then sort of spirituality. So people are into philosophy, spirituality, the more like woo-woo stuff, which I'm quite into, it sort of floats nicely between the two without being too preachy. And it's just real practical things that you can literally read a chapter, leave the house, go to the shop, do it, and you'll physically feel and see the results. And then in days, weeks, and months to come, get the return. But it's not how to negotiate. It's not how to hoodwink people. It's how to play the long game, how to be a good person, how to do nice things. And in my experience, at least, it comes back tenfold.
Yeah. I love the way you always talk about predictability in business and property, and there's a blueprint. We talked about that on the last episode. And this is really the blueprint for, as you say, being a good person and those random acts of kindness, which always come back to you.
100%. Like I talk about this as my karma credits in my life. And the idea of karma credits, we'll talk about that in a minute, but this really is my insurance policy. Like over the last 20 years, I've done deals that I thought I would never come off. I've had returns, successes, awards I never thought I'd get. And I'd stand there achieving something that I never thought would happen. And I genuinely believe the reason that it happens is because of my karma credits. Not, I think sometimes success and failure are very predictable. And sometimes I think it's outside of our control. Well, I think life is far more in our control and far more outside of our control than we appreciate. I think people who have consistently bad experiences, bad relationships, bad transactions, I suspect that's quite predictable. And equally, those people who tend to always come out smelling the roses, things tend to work out okay in the end, and they just tend to genuinely be better looked after by society, relationships, the universe. I do think there's a degree of reap what you sow in there.
Yeah. So this is really about just kind of creating good habits, I suppose. So it almost becomes natural, right? It just becomes part of your makeup.
Initially, and I talk about this in the book, initially it will be awkward. Like you'll have to force, in the same as any personal development, whether it's negotiating, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, initially it will be really difficult. It'll feel really awkward and it'll feel really uncomfortable. But when you start to do it and you see the results and you get the positive return from it, you do get to a point over days, weeks, and months where it becomes addictive, and you literally can't walk past somebody who's dropped an item. You can't not let people out in traffic, because like the whole concept of karma credits is you have a balance. Everybody has a balance, which is either positive or every day it either goes up or it goes down. If you do something good, so for example, today I was at the toy shop with my nephew and somebody in front of me dropped a toy. And so I picked it up and gave it to them. There was an old lady who was clearly like not of the best ability, so a bit disabled. And she was buying this jigsaw and she was sort of counting her money and looking at it really excited. And I just sort of started chatting to her about jigsaws, and you could tell that it like made her day. Those things are like addictive to me and I can't help but do it. And you know that they're generating positive karma credits. And you don't do it for the credits. You do it because it makes you feel good and it makes them feel good and it puts positive vibes out. And this gives you positive credits, where we say, when you get a positive credit, you want to make a noise like a cha-ching. So like walk around in your day to day, do something nice, let someone out in traffic, pay for someone's coffee, pick something up that somebody's dropped. And that's a cha-ching. That's a positive karma credit. If you shaft somebody or don't pay for your carrier bag at Sainsbury's, or like these little bad things that nobody will ever catch you for, they're like, and that's you losing a karma credit. And if every day you can end the day with a positive balance, the accumulation and compound effect over days, weeks, months, a lifetime, I genuinely believe that's how I've got to where I am, because I've invested in positive relationships rather than trying to screw everyone and get the most out of every transaction, really.
Yeah. So you've already given us a few examples there, just looking out for opportunities just to help without looking for anything in return. Where do you begin in the book? Let's look at some other things that you think are really important that, can add those credits up.
So first thing is like the model we use in the book is called the energy blueprint. And to go through that briefly, you can read it in the front couple of pages if you buy the Kindle version, or get the delivered one. It'll be with you like next day. First chapter is all about explaining what karma is, and for people who aren't aware of it, in Western world, we know of karma as, and if you do good, you'll do good. If you do bad, you do bad. In the Buddhist world or the more spiritual world, it's all about energy and connection. And it's just this logic that every action has a reaction. So if you do good things, you get good things. If you do bad things, you get bad things. Second chapter, the N in energy, is about being noble. And it's just really about looking at the people that you really aspire to be like, and looking at who turn you on and they inspire you. And then also looking at the people who really turn you off, and just defining what qualities you want to live your life by. And this is about integrity, or about authenticity, is who do you want to be and who do you project being, and then try and live in line with that as best you can. Experience is all about trying to positively, is appreciating that the way you behave and the way that you feel on a daily basis positively or negatively impacts everyone around you. So everyone around you, you are part of their experience of the day. And if you can go out and do nice things, be pleasant, compliment people at a service station where, if you go to a service station, you see those massage chairs, for example, they're like a quid for a massage. I'll often get £1, write a little note and say, have a massage on me, and leave a quid there and disappear. And they're just random acts of kindness. Nobody will know who it was from. You might not even see the person benefit, but they're just little things to improve the experience. The R, step 4, is all about recognizing people. And this is the concept that once a year, you can do a grandiose gesture for someone, like buy them a Rolex, buy them a car. You can do this grand thing at Christmas for your missus or your husband, whatever you want. It's more important that the sentiment is more important than the size. So actually, rather than give some people would appreciate a handwritten thank you note more than they would £100 or £1,000 bonus. And it's just taking time to recognize people, whether that's your team, your partner, or even at the supermarket. Rather than play on your phone when you're at the checkout, appreciate that person is sitting there for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Rather than just be ignorant and rude, just say hello, ask them how their day is going. They'll be someone worth remembering. And just recognize people in your day-to-day life. Say hello to strangers and have that sort of positive energy. The penultimate one is G, which is guilt. So step 5 is all about nobody's perfect. The only reason I've got to a point where I believe that I am proud of who I am is because I've had times in my life where I've not been proud of who I am. And this is about guilt. And what we talk about here is don't leave crumbs. So basically, when you take pride in apology, when you get something wrong, take pride in it, apologize, go out of your way to make it right, do good things. And equally, most people have got crumbs in their life. So you left a crumb last month, last year, a decade ago, where you did somebody wrong and you never made up for it. Now, if you leave crumbs, eventually they're going to catch up with you, and you want to go away and clear all those crumbs. And when you drop them, get rid of them. And then finally is your life, is how do you go about your day-to-day life, living this stuff? And I've been working on it for 20 years, and actually writing the book took me to a whole nother level because it reminded me all the stuff that I forgot to do. And in the back of it, I do a day of the life of karma credits. And it was a day of just when I was writing the book. And it was just a really good day where loads of things happened that would never happen in a normal day if you didn't practice it. And it just shows that in practice, like you said, I think you said Kevin listened to the podcast and went out and started practicing it. All of a sudden, these things happen and turn up in your life that never would have done before. Your life's more enjoyable, it's more pleasant, it's more connected, and it does turn into ultimately financial business benefits if you authentically and genuinely practice it.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin will share his experiences with our listeners. But I imagine as well, I mean, a good habit I got into a long time ago is always just to take some time at the end of the day and just reflect and just write a few notes and just say, what would I have done differently today? Or what was a really great idea that I had today that I don't want to let slip away? And I imagine if you're constantly building up these good karma credits, then you can lie in bed at night and you can just kind of reflect for a few seconds and just think, that just makes me feel really good before going to sleep. And that surely is going to help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Any practices you do around that. So obviously like reflections, gratitude, things I did well, things I didn't do. My partner and on Property Entrepreneur, we actually teach something. It's not in the book. We call it grace of gratitude. And it might be something you do if you've got a partner or you've got kids, you do before dinner. So you don't have to be religious or spiritual, but grace of gratitude is you just go around the table and you just say one thing you're grateful for. So before you eat your dinner, you say, what are we grateful for today? And it's a good opportunity for everyone to do it. My partner and I, we actually do it in bed. So the last thing we do, we get into bed, we just sort of like say to each other, what are we grateful for today? We reflect on the things that happened well that we were happy for. And, not all days are sunshine and rainbows, but if you go to sleep on a positive vibe, life's got to be, a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. And also as a business owner, right, there must be so many opportunities. You're looking at how can you help your team? How can you help your customers? How can you just do small things that really make a big difference?
And that is the sentiment. I've actually got a card that somebody bought me, and it says, well, behind me, I've got like one shelf of awards. Everything else is thank you cards. And they're what really matter to me, is like people who say thank you, people who've gone out of their way to sort of congratulate me, or most of them just say thank you. But one of them says, it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference. And that's one of the things in the book is just stopping, and we call them 1 minute moments, stopping and taking 1 minute to send someone a message, say thank you, be nice, appreciate them, is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Now, something we talked about actually in the last podcast, Dan, and certainly an exercise we share with all of our members when they join us at Wealth Builders is wealth dynamics. And this is really getting to know yourself, right? And there's 4 main energies. You've got the dynamo, the blaze, the tempo, and the steel. So I'm curious, is it any easier for people who are of, let's say, a very blazy nature? They love talking to people. It comes very natural to them compared to someone who's a bit more steely, a bit more reserved. Can you see any difference or relationships between the karma credits and the wealth dynamics?
It's a really, really good question. I've never been asked it and I've never thought about it, but there will be. The first thing is learning styles. When you look at the energies, everyone has different learning styles. So, for example, when they read it, so for example, a dynamo, I think, are you a creator? No, you're a supporter, aren't you? You're a blaze.
I'm a deal maker, so yes.
A deal maker, yeah. Tempo blaze. So for example, dynamos are visionaries, whereas blazes are auditory. Tempos might be a bit closer to it because they're kinesthetic. You'll feel it and you'll be a bit more sensory to it. Whereas a blaze might do it more, not necessarily practically, but they'll practice it, but may not be as connected. They can be quite million miles an hour and a little bit less sensory. And then obviously steels will be very analytical. They may or may not appreciate the connected, softer side of things immediately. It's a really, really good question. I'd have to consider a more comprehensive answer.
You include the update in the next edition of the book.
Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah. I'm actually going to have it. I'm hoping to partner with a child's author and have it republished for kids.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because a lot of people who read this have shared it with their children, and their children are walking around school going, cha-ching,
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. We're very close to releasing the Wealth Builders for Families program, which we've been developing this year. And, I think we should definitely talk further about that, because that would be amazing to introduce that as well.
Yeah. And any opportunity to get it into more hands, like it's not a commercial. Again, like everyone wanted me to write a book about making money. And I was like, this is sort of more important than that. And yeah, there's no commercial interest in it for me. I just want more people to read it, practice it. And I'll pay you back 10 times what you paid for the book if you practice that and it doesn't fundamentally change your day-to-day life, because I guarantee it will.
Well, let's talk about a couple of examples as well. Obviously, this is proven in your life, Dan. You've been practicing it for many years and seen the results. But, what are a couple of key examples of other people that really stand out to you who've seen the benefit of this?
Most of the entrepreneurs that I train or mentor. So I suppose there's the benefit of how it makes you feel and how you live your life. And then there's the actual financial remunerations and actually getting a tangible return. So in the book, we talk about you need to do it without the expectation of return. So the law of reciprocity is the logic that you will get a return for doing something for somebody. If you look at the other side first as to how it makes you feel, when we look at the more intangible life skills around sort of like stoicism and Taoism and like verging on spirituality, a lot of it is about being quite passive. So in business, it's very easy, unless you're well developed, which most people aren't, to get emotional, stressed, take things personally. And people take those emotional and personal traits and bring them into the office. And that's not good practice for any high performer. Actually, the best that you can do is to be more stoic. And the benefit is you'll be less reactive and less hot-headed if you're, and that'll be a lot for Blazes. In fact, it'll be a lot for everyone. Tempos tend to be a lot more sort of in the moment passive, but Blazes, Dynamos, Steels can always be a little bit difficult. Tempos are notoriously like they're rare. So you're like very rare. They're rare. They're like the nicest people you've ever met. Everybody loves them because they just roll with it. You know, they're just cool. They just go with it.
Never controversial.
Yeah, they're just not interested. You know, it's like, you know, they go along for the ride, which is amazing. Obviously, it has its shortcomings. You know, same as any profile. But when you can have more of that in your life, it can feel good. So most of the people that do well on Property Entrepreneur are people who adopt that lifestyle and can take things less personally, appreciate business is business. It is ones and zeros. It's logic. It's first principles. It's not emotion, ego. You know, it's that's the benefits they see there. Those who actually put it into practice and then get things back, I would say, I mean, one of the examples I use in the book is one of our old board members who went to the supermarkets. This is probably like one where you think that's crazy. It could never happen, but it's very standard, will happen. So he went to the supermarket Sunday afternoon. Everyone's waiting to close up. This guy's in the queue, hasn't forgotten his wallet. He's got 200 quid's worth of shopping. And my friend, previous board member of ours, was standing behind him, could see the guy getting embarrassed, getting flustered, could feel everyone around him getting irritable. And he just said, look, mate, let me pick it up. Let me pay for your shopping. I'll give you my number. You can pay me back later and don't worry about it. And the guy sort of refused a little bit. Anyway, he paid for the guy's shopping, exchanged details. And then literally the next day, the guy rang up and said, you know, I just want to get your bank details, transfer the money. He said, not only that, he said, I looked you up on Facebook because I couldn't believe what you'd done for me. That's not normal. I see you're in property. Me and my partner are looking at getting into property. We've got this money to invest. Could we pay you for some mentoring to be our mentor? He never paid for the shopping looking for a mentoring client, but 12 hours later, you know, it's these sort of things. And that's what you can expect from doing it. It will seem bonkers. You won't believe it happens, but I guarantee you I think Kevin, the first person Kevin did it to, helped someone with their dog or dropped something.
Yeah.
And then it turned out they were a property investor or had money in a pension they wanted to invest. Yeah. It's crazy, but also it's very predictable.
Yeah. So our challenge to everyone listening is just go out and take that first step. Just do something, right? Just be nice, just smile, just ask someone how their day's going, right?
100%. Like strangers down the street, is just smile at them, say hello, ask them how their day's going. Again, initially it will seem weird, but the hallmark of completing this is when you get to a point where you walk down the street and strangers say hello to you before you've even said hello to them. And that's what happens to me. And it's like, you're like the celebrity that nobody knows. Everybody feels like they know you. They want to say hello to you. And it might be because you've said hello to them before. But for me now, it's just because I walk around smiling at people. And because I smile at them, they think I know them. Then they say hello because they feel sort of like they know me. But I've never met them before. And it's like, that is the ultimate, getting to a point where you walk around with this aura and this energy and this connection that you appreciate. The world around you is highly malleable. And you genuinely have far more. Most people walk around scarcity and fear. You want to walk around in abundance, openness, and love. And business, deals, making your millions is significantly easier. And it's significant. It becomes less important and you actually end up doing better at it. So it's bonkers.
Yeah. No, I'm really pleased that we've taken some time to talk about this today, Dan. And, it's a little bit left of center for what we normally talk about, which is, business, property, but so important because at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? We're all here to be happy at the end of the day. And the money is really just a facilitator to have more time, to have more choice and just, be nicer, better human beings.
And for anyone who's sitting there thinking, I tuned into Wealth Talk to hear to figure out how to make my millions, that this is the secret to it. Like, I've made my millions, I've done the deals, I know how all that works. And I would genuinely say, if you follow these principles, you will not only achieve all that stuff, but it will be far more enjoyable, far less stressful. And I genuinely believe you'll get there a lot quicker.
Yeah. So Karma Credits, go and grab your copy now. It's out there on Amazon. Just search for it online. But before I let you go, Dan, I'm just going to rinse your brain for a little bit of thoughts just on where we're at. Obviously, economic climate at the moment, recession looming, boom or bust. What are your top 3 tips for people who are just starting to freak out a little bit and just a little bit unsure about their wealth building journey over the next few years?
So it depends when you listen to this. At the minute, things are changing by the day. So it's the 27th of October, we're recording this. Rishi Sunak's just been announced as Prime Minister. The good thing is immediately that stabilised the markets. So we've gone from panic into patience. Everyone's a bit more patient now. Everything's starting to stabilise. Ideally, we would have had the next budget next week. It's now been pushed back to middle of November, which isn't ideal because we've got another rate review in the interim. I think the stability is going to see a more modest raise than we might have seen. If we get away with 0.5% rise this time on base rate, I think we'll do well. And then what I think we'll do is we'll have the budget with Rishi Sunak and the new Chancellor. I think it'll be a short-term, quite aggressive budget. So lots of cuts, probably some more stealth taxes, and just sort of really balancing the books in the very immediate and short term. But then the medium term will be cutting taxes and moving into the growth plan, which is what they'll need to win the next election and deliver on the 2019 Level Up manifesto. That's the sort of macro level. At a micro level, the only real thing we need to see I'm mainly in property. The main thing we need to see in the short term is some controls or government intervention with the mortgage market. So the mortgage market at the minute is just unviable. It can't stay where it is. So the government needs to either give confidence to the lenders to bring those rates back down, or they need to intervene with some cheap lending agreement to pull that down, and that will stabilize the sort of the property market. For other fields which aren't my expertise, which are more in line with yours, will be, if you think worst case scenario rates do go up, the good thing is we just take our cash and we pay off debt and we put it in savings accounts. As an investor, you can't lose. If interest rates are high, it means there's loads of opportunity to save. If interest rates are low, there's loads of opportunity to spend. It's just understanding what to do. So top 3 tips would be, one is don't try and shoot a moving target. So at the minute you're in a moving target, taking out big development loans, getting on bridging finance, stuff like that at the minute, I wouldn't be doing. I'd be sitting tight and waiting until that moves. Second thing would be, I would be looking at a short, medium and long-term plan. So looking at what you're going to do in this turbulent time, ideally do some deals, make some money. Medium and long-term, what are your asset strategies? So you understand how you're going to play it for the long term. And then final one would probably be, find a few sources of information that you really trust. So like a few places that you go to. They're not normally I wouldn't normally go to the big sort of news houses, more like you guys for your podcasts, us for like Property Entrepreneur for business and property. Find people that are doing this, on a daily basis. So for example, the mortgage market's completely unviable at the minute. So I'm buying stuff cash. So if I'm using my own cash to reduce liquidity and I'm using crowdfunding rather than use mortgages. Now, I shared that the day after rates spiked with our clients, and they're now doing the same. If it's written in YPN or there's courses doing it, you're not You want to be you really want to be close to the news at the minute. So final bit would be find out who's in your space and actually doing it, and just listen to a few trusted sources rather than read everything, because your brain will get blown if you read everything. It all contradicts itself.
Yeah, no, great words there, as always. Thank you, Dan. And of course, go and check out and download and subscribe to Dan's podcast, Official Property Entrepreneur Podcast. Absolutely excellent. Not just covering business, but all things like karma credits we've been talking today. So, Dan, thanks so much again for being a great guest on Wealth Talk. And we look forward to the next time of having you on the show.
Thank you for having me again, Christian. I wish you all the best.
All right, that was lots of fun, and we're both going to share our experiences of the karma credits, Kevin. But before we do that, let's head over to Trustpilot, and we've had some good karma this week. We've had some good reviews coming in, and I'm going to pick one from Amit, who says, refreshingly honest. Kevin is one of a very small number of people I have found who operates with integrity and honesty in an increasingly misguided market where sales are often more important instead of providing the right strategy for clients. He is highly skilled and knowledgeable in his field, an invaluable asset to have in your network. I have no hesitation in recommending him to others.
And just to say, I didn't recommend he engage with us. Okay. And I think that's what he's referring to. Because all too often, I think he's right that people are focused on what's in it for them. And I think it's just important for me that sometimes you meet people, there's just the timing's not right, the situation's not right. You know, we're very comfortable with people taking their time to find out whether WealthBuilders is a good fit. We were a good fit for each other for sure. He resonates our values, with our values rather, and he's a very, very nice guy. But the timing wasn't right. The situation wasn't quite right for what we were doing. So I said, look, let's move on from this and let's stay in touch. And I think that often happens. You know, there's lots of things go on in people's lives. You know, we call them the 4Ds. You know, death, divorce, disaster. I can't remember the fourth one, but you know, there's always things going on in people's lives that mean you know, disease. People illness. I'm sadly going to a funeral tomorrow from one of our staff members, Chris, who died of an illness, and that's sad. So all of those things and you know, get in the way of people making decisions. But sometimes the timing just isn't quite right. So these things are all relevant when you're just doing what's good for them, not trying to find a way to shoehorn them into doing what might be good for you. Win a client in the future is better than trying to win them now and it's wrong.
Yeah. So we encourage everyone listening, Kevin, who's just heard Dan explaining karma credits, those random acts of kindness, to actually put that into practice, right? Because both you and I did. So yeah, Dan sort of explained a bit of what he thought your experience was, but I'm not sure he got it quite spot on. So perhaps you can share for us.
Yeah, more than happy to do that. So I was listening to a podcast from him on my dog walk. I have a weekend dog walk every Saturday morning with my black Labrador called Alan, named after Alan Shearer, of course, Tuna Army. And anyway, flying high at the moment, Chris. It's scary. Maybe it's good karma. Anyway, we walk on the dog, and normally I've got the headphones in, and I don't take them out. I'm just listening and walking the dog, paying attention to the dog. Anyway, this particular day, I was listening to Dan. I thought, I'm going to try this, you know, just on the dog walk. Right? Nothing more than a good hour and a bit on the dog walk. So I was walking along and I saw this woman to the left-hand side of me, and she was scrubbing some bricks, bits of, you know, I suppose small boulders, almost something you might have in a garden. And I said, can I help you with that? You know, because she looked like she was struggling a little bit and that she was going to try and lift them into a car. So anyway, she tipped the water out and I lifted the box of bricks into her car. And we just got chatting, and she said, you know, I'm Kevin, what's your name? She says, I'm Nolene. She said, I was named at Christmas because it's a Christmas baby. And you just started having a really nice conversation. And then she got to ask me about Alan, and she said, oh, yeah, I've seen you and Alan before walking down this way, and I'll look out for you next time. And that was nice. So back of the headphones on, didn't meet anybody else until the end of my walk, Chris. I stopped for a little cappuccino and a little bowl of water for the dog, and I went in there, and usually I've just got my headphones in and it's like nod, cappuccino, and, you know, water for the dog. There you go. I took my headphones out got chatting to the bloke. He said, "Oh, I see you've brought your dog." He said, "Salon, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, that's right. How do you know that?" He said, "Oh, well, your wife's been here before." And we got chatting. I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Michael." I said, "I've got a son called Michael." He went, "All right, that's nice." And we just got chatting. And then a couple of minutes later, he brings out treats for the dog. Now the dog's deliriously happy. Now every time I walk past the coffee shop, he's dragging me in because he thinks he's going to get a treat from Michael. And now every time I do go in, Michael brings him a treat. Tiny little things, but just made the day much more interesting, much more fun, just by engaging with people. And I've definitely started to let people out in my car conscientiously and consciously on purpose. Now, generally, I'm not an aggressive driver. I'm quite a relaxed driver, but I'm being much more relaxed these days as I let people out.
Yeah,
That's the dog howling. You can hear me talking about the treat.
Well, yeah, I followed suit after I interviewed Dan last week. Absolutely, letting everyone out in the car and just getting some nice waves back. And I haven't had the good karma come back, but that's not the point of it, is it? It's not to expect anything in return. It's just to do these acts of random good deeds, and it fills you with a good feeling, and that's all it's about, I think.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with that. It wasn't about a measurement of treats or anything, but it was just a nice feeling, and it's a one that I'm embracing now. And I think for anybody who needs a reminder in troubled times, just to do good things, it's a nice thing. And I think his book's doing extraordinarily well now. It's Amazon #1, and I'm very delighted for him, and pleased actually that he taught me a thing or two, and I like that. It's nice when you get lessons yourself when you're normally dispensing them. So, well done, Dan Hill. And if you are minded to get a copy of the book, you can signpost that in the show notes, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll share all the links, but I'm sure if you head online to Amazon, search Karma Credits, you'll see that top of the list. And we're ever so close, Kevin, to 200 reviews on Trustpilot now. So let's just put that good karma out. We don't need to say anything. Just put it out there into the world.
That wasn't the purpose of the podcast, Chris.
No, it wasn't.
Don't drop that in as if somehow we manipulated this for a bit of good karma on the way back. But no, it wasn't. But if you're enjoying it, just give us a review if you're enjoying it, because we want to continue doing this way past 200 up into the 300s. But we're delighted that people are enjoying what we're doing, both in terms of the podcast and in the wider sense of helping people to get on the right path to build their wealth.
Yeah. So we enjoyed today's episode. We hope you did too. And Kevin, we will catch up same time, same place next week.
And until then, my friend, see ya.